And welcome back to the Spicy Sports Show with Sam Stern, coming to you live from Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's May 21st, 2016. That means it's 1 week until the Champions League final in Milan between Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. We have a lot to talk about besides that. I mean, there's a lot of soccer that went on today, including the Pokal, which is the German Cup final between Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich, the FA Cup, Manchester United and Crystal Palace, the French final between Marseille and PSG, and some news about Manchester United as well, heading into next season. Of course, we do have other things as well. We have the NBA playoffs going on, the NBA draft's already been decided. And my final topic, who should be the next James Bond? There's actually people placing bets on this. It's interesting to see the types of people that are available. But I'll give you my insight, and that'll be at the end of the show. It's interesting because I don't really do Saturday shows. I just have some time, so for me, it's a lot of fun getting to do it on a weekend. I'm in Minneapolis, which is great. It's a great city. It's my third time here, first time where it's not snowing, which is always a good thing. Or second time where it's not snowing. So I like it. I have some friends here from school, and 2 weeks left until a bachelor party, which actually is Tom Crane's bachelor party. So it should be excited to get to go to Philly. Also get to go down to Baltimore too for a day, and Maryland to see the folks. And so that should be pretty good as well. So again, 6 more days on the road, and then after that, vacation for about 2 weeks, 10 days. I'm really excited. But anyway, we have a lot to talk about right now. NBA conference finals are going on right now. That's the hot topic for, I would say, the most part. People love the soccer stuff. Don't get me wrong, and I do too. But that being said, NBA playoffs are the big hot topic here. 4 teams left, the final 4. You have the Warriors, you have the Thunder, you have the Raptors, and you have the Cavaliers. Arguably the 4 best teams. You can definitely see the East. Cleveland and Toronto making it there. They're the 2 of the best teams in the East, no question. Warriors expected to be here. Thunder, not really. Everyone did expect the San Antonio Spurs to do what they do against the Thunder for the most part, and that's win the series. And again, when last time I did this with Tom, everyone thought that the Thunder, no shot. Because you know what? It's the same story every time. It's Westbrook, it's Durant, and it's just a supporting cast that if they don't perform, then they're out. And that's pretty much what it's been, which is why the Thunder went to Coach Donovan of Florida, formerly of Florida. And in his rookie season, he got to the conference finals, defeating Greg Popovich and the Spurs, which is an impressive thing to do, considering the Spurs team is always in it at some point. And it's impressive just to see how just a coaching change. Granted, I mean, the players have developed a little bit more over the course of the last couple months, but Westbrook has taken a back seat in a way to Durant. Granted, both Durant and Westbrook are in the top 5 of top 5 players in the NBA. You have Steph, you have LeBron, and again, you'd probably throw Westbrook in there, Durant in there, and then probably, I don't know. Again, they're in the top 5 for sure. No question about it. Probably Kawhi at 3, somewhere around there. Between Kawhi, Durant, and Westbrook, that's 3, 4, 5 for me. Right now, the series is 1-1. Game 3 is in Oklahoma City. You can check that out tomorrow night on TNT. Sorry, that's with all the entire series will be on TNT. The Eastern Conference is on ESPN. Once the Thunder beat the Spurs, I think everyone started to at least respect the Thunder a little bit more. Durant's one of those guys that is just so likable as a person. I think he's very hard to criticize, and I think that's one of the reasons why his criticism hasn't come around, because the Thunder have been a team where since Westbrook, since Durant have come on, and since they've gotten into the playoffs, the expectation is we can get to the NBA Finals. And behind LeBron, Durant used to be the second best player in basketball. That is before Golden State started taking over with how they run their offense. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Steve Kerr started taking care of business, and they went on to win a championship. They leaped over what the projection was supposed to be for Kevin Durant and Westbrook. That was the trajectory that we thought the Thunder were going on after they lost to the Heat in the finals in 2012. 4 years later, Scott Brooks is out, Donovan is in, and now they have an opportunity to get back to the finals. But honestly, 4 years later, I honestly thought the Thunder were going to be the team to beat for the next 10 years in the West. Now that seems to be the Warriors at this point, the way they're running their offense. Mark Jackson constructed that team very well and said a couple years ago, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, they're the best backcourt in arguably the history of basketball. It was a bold statement then. It's starting to come to fruition now. But again, it's 1-1 right now. I've always said the series doesn't start until home court advantage is lost. Right now, the Warriors are at a disadvantage because they did lose home court in Game 1. Granted, Game 2 was more of what we would expect in this series between Golden State and Oklahoma City, 118-91. But Game 1, after winning a hard-fought series against the Spurs, Oklahoma City gave it to them pretty well. Granted, there have been a lot of questionable calls with that have to involve the Thunder, and then going back to the series against the Spurs, here's what I have to say about that. And I've always said this. If you're leaving the game down to the refs, there shouldn't be much complaining whether you win or lose, because if you're in that position, anything can happen. I'm a firm believer in that. It doesn't matter what sport. If it's down to the final seconds and you're throwing the decision in the ref's hands, I'm sorry. Then, hey, if you won it, great. If you didn't, you know what? You probably had opportunities earlier in the game to take care of it. You just didn't. That's how I feel. That's how I probably always will feel. So the Thunder right now, for me, have the advantage going into Game 3. Because you look at that squad, I mean, that's a pretty good team. Steven Adams has stepped up immensely, and Enes Kanter, that duo of big men have just been phenomenal thus far. I think that has been the difference. Back in 2012, you had James Harden, who was the X Factor, disappeared in the finals, but up until that point, he was the third guy. Now, it used to be Ibaka, but again, the big men have contributed immensely, especially when you need against the Warriors, you cannot give them second chance opportunities. And the Thunder have been cleaning up the boards offensively and defensively, which have helped the Thunder gain extra possessions and keep them in the game. So, Warriors definitely have to win one, of course, here in the next 2 games in order for them to gain back home court. We'll see what happens. I do predict this to go 7 games. Right now, I'm not going to give you a winner right now, just because I think it's really too tight to call. Either team represents the West in the finals would be great. I would love to see the Thunder to get another opportunity at a title. I would also love to see the Warriors go back-to-back. The West, you thought it would be just the Warriors and the Spurs. Hello, Thunder. Moving on to the Eastern Conference, you have Cleveland and Toronto. Cleveland, we'd expect to be there. Again, there are a lot of questions switching to different head coaches from Blatt to Tyronn Lue, rookie head coach, but he has a lot of respect. I'm not saying that Tyronn Lue is a bad guy or a terrible coach, just because he's replaced midway through the season, it just seemed like a really odd thing to do because they were first in the Eastern Conference, which is something that rarely ever happens. I've never heard. I think the last time that's ever happened where a coach has been fired halfway through the season, in first place in their conference, I think was like in the 70s. It was a really, really long time ago. But you can clearly start to see it pay off now. Cleveland 10-0 start the playoffs. 10 wins in a row for Tyronn Lue, most by a head coach to start their playoff career. Cleveland's dialed in. There's no question about it. You look at the scores right now. I mean, 115-84, 108-89. You're going to check out Game 3 tonight on ESPN. This series, I think it's over. You look at what the Cavaliers have done. In this postseason, they have shot so many three-pointers, and I think the difference now is Kevin Love is available. They've added the necessary pieces. They haven't just gotten veterans and just to throw in veteran bodies and to say, hey, just because you're a veteran, you have this experience. They've thrown in the right mix of people. I think Kevin Love being available and also Kyrie leading. He's right now overall the leading scorer for this team in the playoffs. Not LeBron, it's Kyrie. And again, Kevin Love being available, LeBron doing what he does best. Channing Frye, I think, for me, has been the key for this playoff run so far. Being a stretch big. Again, Tristan Thompson, do okay. Mozgov, okay. But what Channing Frye has done, he's been able to play a stretch big position, which in this NBA now is way more necessary. I just think that is going to be huge. Going and you look at on the other side for Toronto, man. Kyle Lowry, that's been the biggest discussion besides the Cavaliers blowing Toronto out. Lowry, they've lost all game ones thus far Toronto has in this postseason. And you think that when they lose a game one like that, it was expected just because they had played a grueling 7-game series against the Heat. But you look at how they came out in game 2 just flat, and then Lowry going to the locker room, saying he needed to decompress, but in reality he had to go to the bathroom. I don't know. He just doesn't look like a leader to me. Again, I loved him when he was in Houston, and I'm glad he finally found a home in Toronto that finally valued what his skill set was, because I knew he'd always be a good player on the right team. I just don't think he could be that great player. Him and DeRozan, man, they need to get it together. They probably need to average about 60, 70 points just to have a chance in this series. Again, I'm not going to be surprised if the Cavaliers sweep. But at the end of the day, it's not over until home court is lost. Right now, it's 2-0. If they get 2 in Toronto, if Raptors get that, hey, you never know what's going to happen. But it just doesn't seem that likely, just because Cleveland is so dialed in right now. The way they're shooting from the perimeter, and which again opens the ball inside. And hey, Cavaliers, they're expected to win. The goal when LeBron coming back to Cleveland was, hey, we are going to win a championship. That's it. That's the only goal. Win record doesn't matter as long as at the end of the day they accumulate 16 wins in this postseason. That's all that matters. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I'm going to go over the NBA draft results. If you already know, Philadelphia is the number 1 pick. Who should they draft? Brandon Ingram or Ben Simmons? So we'll talk about that after the break. Here is Coming Over, Kygo, Dylan Francis on the Spicy Sports Show with Sam Cerrone on Spreaker Radio.